Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Are They? Final Buzzer. Once again, I am Matt, and today I am joined by the one and the only Chris Anthony Lopez.
Yeah.
Actually doing a sports show despite what Toby says.
Yeah, Toby don't know what he's talking about. That's my man, but my God, like he don't know me. I am an enigma. He don't know me.
And joining Chris and I, we have Watt's own Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Hey everybody, how's it going? I am unexpectedly on this show. Not that I'm complaining, but I'm here. So how's it going?
And joining us also is my former coworker, my former supervisor, and still a good old friend of mine from Costco 1226, George Goins.
Am I on here, man? It's a weird situation.
How you doing?
Hey,
wow.
Hey, hold on, man. It's some new era shit, man. I'm not used to this kind of shit.
Your age finally catching up with
you, man.
Not much. Your age finally catching up with you. I see that both of us need a trip to the barber.
Hold on, nigga. My fade is tight.
Yeah,
looking like
the top's a
you're
mess.
looking like Wolverine in the first X-Men. Don't talk shit to me.
Yeah, but the top's a mess, George. I'm used to seeing that nice and tight. Also, the fade might be nice.
Hold on. It is a little scruffy around the top side, but everything is good.
That's good. That's good. I see you still got that Costco brand OBJ jersey hanging in the background.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, you can't get cheaper than that, right?
But yeah, today's probably going to be a quick show. There's only a few things to really talk about in the world of sports. Realistically, it's the NFL draft news and WrestleMania. But considering I got two other Cleveland guys on here, real quick, what do you guys think about these rumors that Jadeveon Clowney is a possibility?
Oh, excellent. I think if you don't have anything up front to force the quarterback, you're in a lot of trouble. We haven't had a good pass rush situation with the Browns. To be able to go out and get another big star like that will be critical. And right now, this team really needs to do everything they can to help Baker Mayfield. I think this is all about Baker Mayfield this year. What are we going to do to help Baker Mayfield? They have not done anything to help Baker. I'm all in on Baker. I think a pass rush is what they need for Baker Mayfield.
Fair enough. Nick, what do you think?
Two former first overall picks on that defense. That would be absolutely insane. I mean, I loved Clowney when he came out. I don't know if his numbers have exactly said what a number one pick should per se, but I like him. I kind of thought that he might stick around with the Seahawks with that defense, and they're always known for such good defense. But, I mean, listen, if he's going to be a potential name that we might be able to bring onto this team, I'm pretty excited myself.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I know you two, Chris, I don't know how much you know about your Colts, so I ain't even going. I don't know if I should ask.
Colts. Who is my Colts?
You're from Indiana. I'm
a Bears guy, my man. Northwest Indiana. What's up? What we got going on? Don't assume you don't know me.
Fair enough.
Don't assume.
Hey, shout out to Mike Ditka.
Yeah, man. We out here. The coach. We out here.
Shout out to Mitchie T.
Yeah, the Bears backup quarterback.
Near Ohio, baby. Near Ohio. Cleveland boy.
Cleveland boy. Leave that boy alone. He's going to be the starter because Nick Foles ain't shit.
He'll start by week 3.
Fair enough. But no. So, all right, let me start off with you then. What should your Bears do with this first round draft pick of theirs?
It's really, man, the problem with the Bears is that, like, not only like we're good offensively. I think offensively is like we're perfectly fine, especially with the acquisition of Nick Foles. I'm not really worried about it. Defense. The Bears they were on fire with their defense for at least they started the decade on fire with their defense. But recently, in the last couple of years, we've been offensively heavy, and they can't support Mitchell Trubisky or now Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. So defense is the way to go. Honestly, we need somebody, or we need picks, and we need players that will boost that. So the draft better be at least defense heavy to begin with, because we're good offensively.
Fair enough. fair enough.
Are you?
I mean,
you have
You know what? Man, that's the kind of almost the same. That's the same thing
Khalil
with the
Mack,
Browns. If we can get this defense going, I
Khalil
think
Mack can do everything
our offense is
himself.
powerful enough to keep it going.
yeah, our offense is probably.
Bears and the Browns got the same problem.
Yeah, we did, just like the Bears. We had a strong defense to start off the. For the longest, we were known for our defense, and right now we're known. Well, we should be known for our offense. We're known for our stuttering offense. But our defense proved it wasn't much this season when Myles Garrett went down. And we had a few injuries when it came to our secondary to start off the season. You missed your two starting corners for 4 weeks out of the first, 5 or 6? It's not good. But, yeah, George, I know there are people saying Isaiah Simmons. There are people saying tackle. What do you think? Should they trade up? Should they go tackle? What do you got going for them?
I think that you definitely have to trade up. I think the Browns are in a unique situation where last year was so disappointing. They're in a win-now situation. Outside the Ravens, the division's wide open. I think the Steelers are not the forerunners of the division anymore. I don't even think they're second place. I think before Myles Garrett did the helmet incident, I mean, we dominated them pretty much with that team. If we can go out and get a Clowney to add to Myles Garrett, along with everything else they're doing with the offense, the Browns, I mean, hell, we beat the Ravens in a game easily. At that point, the Ravens won 10 games in a row after we beat them. I think if we go out and get a Clowney, we are a better team. So if they need to draft up and get some protection for Baker Mayfield, like I said, I don't want to beat it over the head. I think right now they need to do everything in their power to protect Baker Mayfield and build him up as the next big star in the league, which I think he has the capability of doing.
Nick, how about you?
I mean, my big thing is I don't see how they don't go offensive lineman at 10. I say stay where you're at unless there is an offensive lineman that they absolutely love. My big thing is, this draft is probably going to end up shaping out to be pretty interesting, where we don't know within like the top 5, top 6 picks where certain quarterbacks potentially might go, where these big trades might happen in order to put these quarterbacks. I mean, I would say obviously Burrow is a lock. I'm pretty confident that Tua is going to Miami, but do the Chargers end up drafting Herbert at, what is it, 6 are they at, I think, or something like that?
Yeah,
there's so many potential trades that could happen that could screw that up, though. If you think about it, the Lions are there, at 5 or something like that?
Lions are at 3.
3? Well, you see, there you go. One of those players becomes wide open there. The team that might want to draft Herbert, that might not be the Chargers. Even so, the Chargers might move up. I feel like there's going to be so many. Even at 10, there's going to be such an interesting array of players. But in my opinion, you got to go defensive line.
You mean
offensive line? Sorry. Yeah, I meant offensive.
Well, honestly, which tackle are you taking then? Because there's only out of the two tackles that are said to be of the first 4 to go. There's only 2 that are actual true left tackles that have played on the left side basically their entire career. That's Mekhi Becton, and that is Andrew Thomas from Georgia. The other 2 they're saying and they're both projected to move to the left side, are Tristan Wirfs and Jedrick Willis. So if you had to pick a lineman, who would you want to go with?
Me?
I definitely like the
I've been following that. Well,
right,
I was going to say,
Matt, I would definitely go with the kid out of Georgia.
The kid out of Georgia.
If you look at Georgia's running game, what they're doing out there is a good thing. I mean, if you go from Holyfield to Chubb, they just have a great situation down there in Georgia. They know what they're doing in their blocking schemes because they have successful running backs. So to go out and get the kid from Georgia and put him on the line, that'll already build a camaraderie with him and Nick Chubb. And God, we know how much we love Nick Chubb. He's going to be here for a long time. Get the kid from Georgia. If you don't have to move up for him, don't. But if you have to, and we got enough young players on here, I'm willing to give up some drafts because we're in a situation we need to win now.
Nick, how about you?
Well, I mean, my big thing with that is I think that what's kind of nice is that a lot of these linemen are from these bigger schools. Obviously, they're recruiting really well over there. But I mean, my big thing is I know that they signed some offensive linemen. Are they going to play them at left tackle, or is it a surefire decision that they need to draft a left tackle right now?
It's a surefire decision they need to draft. They came out and said Conklin will be playing right tackle.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I say draft. I go to your point where they're in a win now situation. Draft the player that fits the need that you need and not have to worry about. We've had so many players in the past where we've had to switch over their spot in the line in order to reteach them a new line. Exactly. So it's like, to me, draft the left tackle. That's all I say is if you can draft a pure left tackle, you don't have to reteach them the position, and you're already setting yourself up for success. Just because I'm only going to say that because I'm not as familiar with the tackles in this class. You know, to me, it makes sense. Draft the tackle. If you need to trade up for it, don't give up too much because I'm sure that there's needs like linebacker that we need to figure out.
You're definitely linebacker. There's no question about that.
Well, that brings me. This is a question I asked Sean last week, and I should ask you guys. If you had to choose between safety and linebacker in round 2, which are you going? Let's say you have to choose between Delpit and Malik Harrison. Who are you going with?
Linebacker.
So
Linebacker. Yeah, we need somebody out there in the middle. I think that we're pretty good. I mean, secondary is decent, but losing Joe Schobert, I think, is going to be a big hole at linebacker. I mean, Joe Schobert, I thought gave you a lot of consistency, healthiness, and I know Kirksey's gone. You know, now Mac Williams has to step up and be big. But outside of Mac Williams, I don't know who we have to fill that middle defensive area. I know that we're pretty fair in the secondary, but linebacker is a very important position. So for you not to go in the second round and get a good linebacker, it's going to be problems. You know, it's going to be a lot of problems. Mac, like I say, I like Mac Williams a lot, and he's still young. He can do big things, but losing Schobert is not a good thing.
I mean, not only did you lose Schobert, you did lose Kirksey, but
That's what I'm saying. We lost to Kirksey. Wasn't there much last year though.
Yeah, but Mac played in the spot and played just as well. So I have no
right. So we got the Kirksey spot filled, but we don't have the Schobert spot.
I mean, you forgot we have fan favorite name Taki Sione Taki.
Man, a fan favorite. A fan favorite don't make tackles, man. We need somebody consistent and help. Right now, we need healthy bodies on the field. And I mean, guess what? I'm rooting for Taki. What a great story last year. But now, man, like I said, we got Odell. With this team we don't have time to be experimenting. We got a new head coach. We got a new GM. I think there's as much pressure, if not more, than it was last year.
Fair enough. Now, Chris, your Bears were a team that underperformed just like our Browns last year. Both teams had big playoff hopes, and we all fell short, let's be honest.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So what positions of need do you think they need to target the most? Because I know you said defense, so we're on the defense.
Specifically in regards to defense, like we need linebackers to complement Khalil Mack, honestly. Because my man, like when we got him, it was league shaking, and it gave the Bears potential to the point where it's like, yo, the Bears are going to go back to what the Bears name provides, like defensive ass kickers. And now that we underperformed and we're kicking butt offensively, we can't back that up. We can't support whoever's going to be throwing passes this season, whoever it is. So I believe to specify safety, linebackers, and not even just I would not be surprised if the Bears draft offense as well. I mean, we don't have a first round pick, which really sucks.
Oh yeah, you know. So y'all still paying for that Khalil Mack deal 3 years later.
So I wouldn't be surprised if later in the draft Bears, like, they try to pick up a running back since we've been shuffling through running backs the last few years, and we're fine in regards to receivers, and we just picked up Jimmy Graham, which is already a questionable signing, but I like to stay optimistic. So linebackers, safeties, and I would not be surprised if we would get a running back.
Man, you weren't kidding. Toby don't know shit because you can actually keep up with football.
I'm telling y'all say underestimate.
Right.
I didn't say underestimate you.
Keep
Toby
underestimating me. We'll see.
But no, I do agree. Your running back situation isn't the best. If there was one running back you could get from this draft class, who would you want it to be?
It's even hard to say. Like, to be frank, like,
you better get Jacob. You better get Dobbins, man.
That's exactly what I had.
You better grab Dobbins out of Ohio State. I mean,
is he going to drop?
If you're going to get a running
round?
back right now,
Yeah, he's supposed to be a second rounder.
Because I forget what.
Yeah,
I think the Bears have one of the.
Dobbins could be early second round.
See, if it's early second round, then by all means. But are the Bears going to prioritize a running back in the second round? Are we trying to boost up? It depends on what the Bears are trying to do. I think defense is the way to go to begin, but shit, if there's a decent running back that can complement the offense, we really got to pack that up defensively later in the draft.
Catch and run would be perfect for your offense.
And Dobbins can play in the element.
Yes.
Is that what school is he from?
I'm sorry.
Ohio State.
Awesome. Y'all some homers for your boy.
No, I'm not a homer. I mean,
he's honestly.
Dobbins is a good. He's a 2-year starter for Ohio State. I mean, he made that offense work last year.
He carried the offense for the most part.
He really did.
He broke the school record last year, if I remember correctly. But, I mean, there's still Jonathan Taylor out there who, for some reason, people rank above J.K. Dobbins when Taylor disappeared in some big games, let's be honest. And to get on this comment right here, all of our teams fell short. Your team's the Cowboys, so, like, they always fall short.
Ouch. Got him.
I don't have a comment.
We got Go Bucks. OHIO. Where'd George go? Oh shit. We're gonna wait for George to come back, but yeah, I mean, you can call us homers, but the thing is, he was one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in college football last year.
I mean, yeah. Listen. Here's my perspective on it. Is that I'm from Ohio. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I don't follow it as religiously as a lot of people do. Right. He's a good running back. I mean, that's the big deal about it.
This is coming from a guy that doesn't keep up with college football.
Right. I don't either. And I see. Look, I'm wearing an Ohio shirt.
Yeah, it's like.
I mean, Nick went to a school without a football team. I'll be going to that same school, so I got to root for some football team.
Right.
I don't know what your Indiana State situation is, but
we're not going to mention that.
Oh no, I just mean, do you guys have a football team?
We do. No, we do.
But at least you guys have a football team,
and they're not the greatest.
I'd rather have one that's not the greatest than not have one at all.
Understood.
Because at least you still have somewhere to go on Saturdays and tailgate.
So you're right.
But yeah, something, and George texted me, he's like, I'm having some difficulties. Give me a moment, I'll hop back in there, so that's cool. But something they announced today is that the draft will be completely digital. You're going to basically have a program that Chris became familiar with today, Zoom.
Yeah, we Zoom in.
Zoom conferences of teams, and that's going to be their war room, which is funny because, like, I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work out. Or if I don't know if someone can just hack Zoom or whatnot. If they can, that would just be hilarious.
Wouldn't that?
It's going to just flashing a screen or something like that in the middle of like the number one pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow. Just be aware. I've heard of cases of people hacking Zoom, so that's the reason why I'm saying that. And like, it's primarily flashers. They talk about it on the radio all the time about how like a classroom full of kids is in the middle of doing their thing, and then out of nowhere, some absolutely sick mother effer goes on there and
That's gross. I've never heard of that.
right. They were talking
What's
about
happening in your class, Chris?
What?
So what's happening in your class, Chris?
No, I'll lose my mind. But in regards to the draft, going all virtual was inevitable. I think,
Right.
especially with the state of sports right now, I'm just surprised that they're still going to try and broadcast it in some way, shape, or form, and especially with something as suspect apparently as Zoom. So as long as it still goes on, that's great. And I'm pretty sure, the NFL has enough money to have some secure browsers. Let's be real.
Anything can be hacked. That's the big deal.
You're right. But if this is the first thing to be moved digitally, like I'm curious into what's next for the NFL, because they're the only big like sports. I don't want to say sports league because there are a lot of other leagues, but it's really of the big four. It's the last one to really make changes due to the COVID-19.
Yeah, Sean and I were ripping on him last week because Goodell was like, "Yeah, we're still going to do this broadcast. Teams can still be at their facilities, this, that, and the other." And I'm just like, "No, that's not smart, especially with everything that's going on. Why would you put those people at risk?"
Because here's what it's going to be. And like there was some national show on the radio talking about it, is that the unfortunate thing about it is that with nothing being on, this is going to be a ratings juggernaut. And if there's any way that they can make it even more of a ratings juggernaut and make more money, they're going to do it. That's just that's the unfortunate thing. And I'm sure that they can do that with all the Zoom recording and stuff like that. I'm just making a point that I just think that that's inevitable, is that anything that they do is for money. Just that's how any company operates, obviously.
Fair enough. And since we are talking about the draft, let it be known right now, we are in the process of creating a final buzzer draft watch along, so you can get our thoughts on the picks, any surprises, any trades. Chris, now since I know you can actually talk about football, you can hop in on that if you want.
We'll see. Maybe we can hack in and we can be part of the war room for like the Bucks or something.
Getting the Browns
a random team, just like the 49ers or something.
Man, I want to get.
We'll work our way into it.
You're the one with Zoom. I don't have it.
Okay, I'll try my best.
All right, but let's get talking about something I know you two can talk a lot about, and I will use George Thomas's comment right here to start it off.
Please.
Wrestling, what the fuck?
Yes. Sports entertainment, the only sport that is still actually operating, at least as far as I'm concerned, is professional wrestling. WrestleMania happened this past weekend. 2 days for the first time ever. It was 2 days of madness. A combined 6.5 hours of professional wrestling.
Not the first time they had two different locations, though.
Yeah, not the first time they've done multiple locations.
They did 2 locations? Where were the 2 locations? Because I thought it was just all.
Did 3.
They did 3.
Mm-hmm. They've done. I think it was Was it WrestleMania 3 or one of the first WrestleManias? It was in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
That was just. I mean, this one was at their performance center, and I heard there was another location. I'm not entirely sure.
They did some. They pre-shot some things that they were obviously super cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
To specify, it was a match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles, which was shot. It was a boneyard match. As stupid as that sounds, it was probably the best thing of the weekend. And then another thing for the smart marks out there, the Firefly Funhouse match, which essentially was one big like video compilation that they pitched as a match. That wasn't really a match at all, but it was still cool as hell to watch. So,
okay, someone explain to me what the hell a boneyard match is.
It was a match at a graveyard.
That's it. It
was 2 older guys doing some cool stuff at a graveyard. It was essentially a buried alive match, but they can't. I don't know if WWE's against saying buried alive, since it's
used to be like
2020. So it was a glorified buried alive match, which, I mean, it was so well shot and so well done, and you can tell they put so much money, and there was a 2-day shoot to do it. Apparently, it was incredible. Like it's not. I'm doing an awful job of pitching it to you, but it's absolutely awesome to watch.
Like I told you, I'm not a wrestling guy, so I'm sitting here. I'm you guys are the masters. I'm the learner. I'm just listening. This is going to be like an interview process for me.
So there's a wrestler named Matt Hardy. I mean, he's been around for forever, and they kind of set the stage for matches that weren't inside of a ring. He created this character named Broken Matt Hardy, and he more or less, it was just silly. I mean, what people would consider silly who aren't traditional wrestling fans and stuff like that. Or sorry, from a traditional wrestling fan standpoint, these would not be your cup of tea. But for people who are interested in something different, these types of matches would be pre-taped. They'd have drones randomly flying in and stuff like that. It would just be the most random pile of stuff, but the guy basically created his own brand and skyrocketed himself up the card more or less because of it. Now it's becoming more and more of an evident thing. I mean, they had a match that was supposed to be at a haunted house years ago that was kind of silly because eventually it finished inside of a ring.
That's a bad example of.
Right. I mean,
I'm glad they did it so they know how bad these can be.
Well, exactly, and the hokiness of wrestling lately, like they had a match where, the character that faced against John Cena in that Firehouse match, Bray Wyatt,
Firefly.
He finally became champion with his old character, and everybody was like really thrilled. So he had this match at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, and they kept like projecting bugs and stuff like that onto the stage and stuff like that. It looked so stupid. So I think that like with these cinematic matches and stuff like that, they're finally starting to understand what to do, because I had heard that the Firefly match was basically, funny enough, the Firefly match was pitched by this YouTuber that I watch straight up. He was like, oh, let's bring John Cena back to his old days. He never mentioned anything about turning him heel, which I thought was awesome when he was in the NWO thing, because that's personally where I thought that if they were ever going to turn John Cena heel, how do you turn your biggest star heel? Well, you create the NWO with him or something like that.
And they did it. And when Hulk Hogan turned heel.
Yeah, I was going to say, Hulk Hogan became a mega heel by basically just turning his back on, well, by other reasons in real life, but by
I was just about to say he said the N-word, so there's that.
He's done a lot of such things.
But like back in the day, by turning his back on his like real American eat your vegetables and blah 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 values, and becoming this just awesome villain. That people always kind of imagine that since John Cena was the closest thing from a wrestling standpoint, I will say,
they will never get to Hulk Hogan.
Not anything obviously on the outside, but since John Cena was like the closest thing icon wise to John Cena or to Hulk Hogan, they thought that maybe they needed something like an NWO to be created in order to turn him heel, because it didn't really make sense any other way. But I mean, Bray Wyatt said he was going to suck the life out of John Cena or take years of his life away, and he more or less did in that match. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
And it was something that no one had words. The reaction was all over the place. You either loved it, like you loved it for what it was, and you had your reasonings, or you hated it, and for whatever reason. I saw both POVs on Twitter. I saw people love certain things, hate certain things, which is perfectly fine. I loved it as a whole. I just don't like the fact that they advertised it as a match. It was essentially a career retrospective of John Cena, and they put some wrestling bits into it. But it was still incredibly well done, and they got their point across. It's storytelling to a T. That's why people watch professional wrestling. Like as cool as some flips can look, or how certain moves can be executed, the storytelling is the part that keeps wrestling fans involved and engaged. And that was the perfect example of taking a character that people stopped caring about, or that WWE just buried themselves, and using an icon, like how Nick said, John Cena, to elevate him. And that's what John Cena's been doing for the last few years since he's been acting. He's been in Fast and Furious, and he's been doing a bunch of other stuff.
Which, I mean, was something that he did not do early on in his career, which was kind of there was a lot of decisions that John Cena made towards the middle endish, but not the end part of his or where we're at right now.
Mhm.
Like there was a group called the Nexus that and people who know wrestling know what I'm talking about, but more to shed light on it.
It was a group of guys that were new to wrestling. Like they were built up to be these
WWE.
Yes.
And they basically not that I'm trying to be like, oh, wrestling nerd, it's me. But they basically were a new group, and they came in and they wreaked havoc on every single match. Like their first time that they appeared in the WWE, they basically tore apart the ring. They beat the crap out of the announcers and everything, and they beat up John Cena, surprisingly enough, which became a catchphrase later on. Not by them. And the big idea was they had this huge SummerSlam match where it was all members of the Nexus, except for Daniel Bryan, who got fired for choking a person out with their tie.
Like real life choking them.
Yes, real life choking, which was not good with the announcers and stuff like that.
You mean like Ezra Miller today?
I haven't heard much about that, and I need to watch that.
The video
It's clear it's him. It's clear it's him. It looks staged, but
it's still, with no context, it's off-putting.
Yep.
Yeah. So they brought back Daniel Bryan for Team WWE, and that's kind of how he became such a megastar nowadays. But the idea was you have this group of young talent that you can push to the moon, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Create brand new stars, create brand new faces, create brand new heels. And what happened? John Cena beat them all for some reason. Even though there were other veteran wrestlers on Team WWE that went, maybe that's not the best idea. As an Edge and Chris Jericho, Chris Jericho is, in my opinion, one of the smartest wrestlers of all time. He's been able to
for AEW.
Yeah,
yeah,
and now AEW and helping out with that and pushing them as a brand on its own. Mm-hmm. But John Cena has, and to your point, Chris, is all I'm saying, I guess, in a long way to get back to what we were talking about. I'm happy that John Cena used his power to push a talent as opposed to burying a talent when Bray Wyatt definitely needed the win.
Like, and this was showed to us on the second night. Mm-hmm. And now, like I mentioned when we started talking about this, like WrestleMania for the first time ever was over the course of 2 different nights. Again, New Japan Pro Wrestling actually popularized this idea with their biggest show being spread over 2 nights, Wrestle Kingdom, which takes place in January. But I, as a whole, just to get my thoughts on the show, because I did sit through both of these 3+ hour shows, and I honestly think this is one of the better wrestling, or one of the better WrestleManias that WWE has put on in the last 10 years. Like, I think I can say that, and it sucks that fans couldn't be there because, as Nick said, they shot this at their training facility in Orlando, Florida, in front of no fans. All these wrestlers were doing their thing. The only people that were at ringside were like camera guys, or they were just the person that rings the bell, or the ring announcer, the referee. Like, that's it.
I got to ask before you get into more detail, how was that experience watching that? Because I know part of WWE, especially when watching it on TV, is the fan reaction to everything going on, and just having no one there, basically. What was that like watching it?
Fan reactions make or break a show or a match. Like, we've seen, and a friend of mine actually mentioned this to me yesterday, and we were watching it. Nick, remember when, I don't know if you've seen this match, but it was Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler in an Iron Man match in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh, the crowd was extremely relentless, and they let the wrestlers know that they did not like what was happening in the ring. Yeah. And they hijacked the entire program. Granted, it was the main event, but they hijacked the show. And
that was Rumble too.
Yeah. Like, they did the same thing for Roman Reigns, and fans are so crucial to the product, and they like to say they listen to us, but they don't sometimes, or they do in most cases. But it's super weird. And watching it yesterday, as I was telling you guys before we started doing this, it didn't feel like WrestleMania. It felt like I was watching a glorified house show with some really cool things in it. And a house show is a wrestling show that takes place in your friendly neighborhood bingo hall. When WWE comes through town and they're not at an arena, they're running a house show, like where all the good guys win, and it's a good time. It's fun for the kids. But WrestleMania, I still wish they postponed it. There were some incredible things that happened over the course of the 2 nights that would have killed in front of a crowd. The fans would have lost their minds. I, watching the show, was losing my mind. And I'm like, yo, imagine being there. People that bought tickets to the show, and they can't see Drew McIntyre beat Brock Lesnar in 5 minutes for the WWE Championship. Like, that's incredible. Or watching not Roman Reigns beat Goldberg and how much shit they would have gotten because an old man decided to beat the Fiend, as we talked about in the John Cena thing, and they made a lot of decisions for the better of the company going forward and for the better of the fans. I like that. The match qualities were actually good for the most part. There were some duds, of course. There's always a dud in a wrestling show, but a lot of the bigger matches were good. We got to see Edge come back, and Edge's entrance would have killed in front of a live crowd. And the match that they had would have done gangbusters. I loved this show. I honestly did, and it was a blast to watch. The Boneyard match, I know we were memeing it not too long ago, but it honestly was a joy to watch. And I'm kind of it's one of the good things of them having to go to the PC and not having at I believe what's it, James Raymond, wherever the Bucks play.
Yeah, Raymond Stadium.
Yeah, James Raymond Stadium. Like, it was supposed to be there, and then it got moved exponentially down to the PC, the Performance Center, and it's one of the good things that panned out. Or one of the good things that came out of it was you don't have to watch an old man like The Undertaker do a wrestling match with one of the best wrestlers on the planet, AJ Styles. You got to do this pre-recorded thing that benefited both guys, although AJ Styles, they made it look like he died. Spoiler alert. But it was a joy, and it's the happiest I felt with WWE wrestling in months since the Royal Rumble, honestly. Like, I haven't been watching Raw, I haven't been watching SmackDown. NXT and AEW Dynamite are the only weekly shows I watch and that I care about, really. I keep tabs on the other ones, but this one got me excited again. Like, as we speak, Raw is going on, and I'm excited to jump in and watch what's happening because I'm curious into the aftermath. And we keep talking about COVID. Like, I want to see how WWE continues to do shows, if they do shows.
Yeah, that was actually my next question for you, because I wanted to know if COVID continues in the midsummer to some of the bigger events, like say a SummerSlam or things like that, and they still have to do this Performance Center stuff. Is it going to be weird for you to watch, or do you think by that point you may be adjusted to it because they're doing it in empty stadiums right now?
It was a weird adjustment, but I hate to bring up the competition, but All Elite Wrestling perfected it.
Right. Yeah.
I honestly think they perfected the empty arena show, where you have your fans, your fans are the wrestlers that are there at the taping or at the show, and they're still being their characters. They're not breaking character. Like, you still have the baby faces, which are the good guys. You still have the heels, the bad guys. And WWE, for whatever reason, doesn't do that. I don't know if I believe if you're not wrestling on the show, you're going home, which is also a good way of doing it. But a lot of guys where AEW was shooting the Dynamite tapings, they lived in the area. So they were going to the tapings, social distancing, of course, keeping their distance, but it was still a good time to watch. And you can hear them. You can hear the wrestlers like making fun of or supporting the wrestlers that are actually in the ring. And WWE, they're just having guys come out or ladies come out and wrestle, and that's it. If you're not wrestling in the match, you're not in it at all. And if this COVID-19 thing continues through the summer, I'm curious into how SummerSlam plays out. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because Money in the Bank already got taken out of Maryland. It was supposed to be in Maryland, but it got canceled, at least for the Maryland show. But they might still do it at the Performance Center. but who knows if that's actually going to happen or not. They advertised it during WrestleMania yesterday.
Yeah.
I think the date's May 10th. So if that's what they're doing, then we might have a pay-per-view on May 10th again from the Performance Center.
Well, I mean, to that point, when it comes to, hey, should we be adjusted to it? Hey, should we not? And I mean, not to go back to the point that we were on before, but like, you know, some moments, if this never happened, some moments would have never happened, clearly. And I think that the empty arena helped utilize, like the Edge and Randy Orton match would have never finished backstage where it was utilized so well. But like Braun Strowman would have never faced against Roman Reigns or Goldberg for the Universal Championship because Roman would have been okay to wrestle. What sucks about that moment, though, is Braun Strowman is a guy who fans would have loved to have seen win his first title and celebrate with him. You know, it's the same thing with Drew McIntyre. I think that if we were in front of the fans, they probably would have given that match a little bit more time than they did. But
Roman would have wrestled.
Roman would have won. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, you know, in my opinion, if anything was going to happen, they were going to save Drew for a live crowd, and that never ended up happening. And I'm kind of a little bit surprised that they didn't leave any of these moments for a live crowd, because you could have had Drew win at SummerSlam if things were to calm down. But then again, I guess if they have storylines planned forward for months ahead, which is what they do, they were never going to not do that. To the point of the empty arena thing and whether or not fans are going to be able to adjust to it. You've had a lot of shows already happen, right? But the big thing is your biggest show of the year, WrestleMania, already has happened at the Performance Center, right? So you never ever need to, to me, the biggest hurdle that they needed to get over, which was WrestleMania, they already got over it. So anything beyond that, I think the fans should be progressively getting used to.
Yeah.
But to a point, something that was not mentioned, and this is a huge deal. The thing that we were missing most, you know, WrestleMania not being in front of a live crowd sucks, but my favorite thing of the year is the Raw after WrestleMania. And Matt, what the Raw after WrestleMania is more or less it's fan service. You got superstars from their developmental league appearing in their main shows now. Where
so like the Page debut.
Correct. Yes. Oh no. Yes. Fighting with a Family was Raw after WrestleMania.
Okay. See that I figured that's why I threw that out there, because that's the one thing I could.
Yeah, that's a big example. A good example.
There was huge, and everybody was so excited for Paige to be there because I mean, one thing that's portrayed in the movie is the uncertainty of whether the fans were going to react well or not. It ends up that that's not the case. In real life, the fans were ready for Paige to make her debut. It's just a point that I want to make so you understand the validity of how big the Raw after WrestleMania really is that the hardcore fans knew who Paige was, and they were the actual pop of the crowd, which is just the amount of cheering, was astronomical. So, you know, we're missing out on opportunities, and who knows if they're even going to debut anybody, because it's going to be so lackluster if they do. And I'm sure that was in the plans, was basically they use their Raw after WrestleMania for surprise returns, surprise NXT call-ups, which is basically like their lower league up to the regular. And what's nice about it is there's an honest shock value. If something happens at WrestleMania, they don't always right the ship to what the fans want, because obviously, you know, there's a decision that's made, and if the fans don't like it, then obviously they can figure out a way to fix it per se, but they're not going out of their way to be like, well, here, this is actually how it was supposed to go. Like if they have a Money in the Bank winner, they might make them cash in on the Raw after WrestleMania if a person that they didn't really like wins the title. Like I'm thinking about Dolph Ziggler with Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, that reaction was nuts.
I was watching that video today, actually, and the reaction of the crowd was, again, astronomical. It was huge. You could hear it on the Richter scale, it feels like. So to me, even though we missed big opportunities and the pop would have been huge for when the pop would not have been as huge when Roman beat Goldberg. The pop would have been huge when Braun beat Goldberg. But the issue is, I feel like they wasted Braun Strowman's first title win. They could have stuck a veteran in there. They could have had Kingston beat him or something like that. I know that he was already in a match the day before. But to me, I guess there was nobody else that could have beaten Goldberg. But to me, as a fan of Braun, as a fan of seeing him go through all this, I would have loved to have seen a live crowd just go nuts when he won his title.
The thing, I'm glad you mentioned the Raw after Mania, because it is by far the most anticipated Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, NXT, Impact show of the year. Like, if you are a WWE fan, honestly, there are people that would skip WrestleMania and just go to the Raw afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a thing, and it's just the thrill of it and the uncertainty. Some of the best moments of the last few years in professional wrestling have come from the Raw after Mania. Whether it is a Paige debuting and beating AJ Lee for the Divas belt in the same night, or Enzo and Cass debuting against the Dudleys, like, it's some of these bigger moments have come from that night, and we are losing out on that. Like, and
they might still do them though because the internet exists. Obviously,
mm-hmm.
the whole thing is to go viral. Obviously, that's the big thing. And
this was the most social WrestleMania. They made sure to emphasize
that.
For
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It was the most social WrestleMania ever.
Spoiling things if you weren't watching it. That was like, I saw like winners of matches, and I mean it's all pre-taped, so unfortunately we're probably going to end up leaking something. I didn't know.
Apparently, they deemed it a fireable offense if you release spoilers.
Oh, I'm not surprised. But like I've been off Facebook. I've been using it a little bit more lately to share some projects and stuff like that I've been working on. But I usually follow a page called the 434, and that's where I literally, because I don't have a lot of time to actually be able to watch Raw and SmackDown. I'm sure I can make time for it, but that's where I get all of my information when it comes to my wrestling. So it was really interesting to go to their page and see, like, because I didn't even know how things were really being impacted by all this that was going on. You know, I assumed that Roman, previously being sick already, was not going to fight in the show, and thank the Lord. Whether you like Roman or not, there's no need to wish that he would have something like that. Yeah. So it's like, because the fans aren't entirely, I'm sure that eventually the fans will be behind Roman. It's just taking a while for it to take off. They're not going about it the right way. I'm sure that if he had it his way, he would have figured out a way to get over with the crowd. You know what I mean? But that's the big thing, is like, the fans aren't going to like Roman, but as a character, but when he had announced that he was in remission, there was nothing but praise and happiness throughout the entire arena. So I'm happy that he didn't wrestle, but like, I don't know how the fans would have reacted, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, if Roman did win. So.
And that just goes to show how important the fans are to these shows.
Right.
And there are all these like reports and rumors, and people are saying like Vince McMahon hates the fact that he's running shows without fans. I guarantee it, not only from a business standpoint and how much money they're losing from canceling live shows, from not having fans come in and all the merch and stuff, whatever, but it just feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just feels different. And watching SmackDown this past week, like, and what WWE is doing now is that since they're pre-taping everything, not every minute is new material. Like, tonight on Raw, they're replaying the Boneyard match from the first night of WrestleMania. That would never happen in any other circumstance. Like,
they did that on SmackDown, the Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, they've been replaying older matches that happened this year, and it's gross in hindsight, because like, yo, you have a bunch of talent that never gets utilized, and this is the perfect time to showcase them. But of course, due to the circumstances, you can't have a bunch of people under the same roof. So replaying these matches is fine, like whatever. But I cannot wait to see the state of wrestling once we're back into our normal lives. We're gonna thrive because fans are gonna be more wild than ever. Because like, I can't wait to go to another wrestling show. Because now, like, I've been ungrateful. Like, I was in Chicago when Survivor Series was in Chicago this past year, and I didn't go to any of those shows.
Wait, was that going on while we were there?
No, it was in November.
Gotcha.
But I was bummed. Yeah. Oh, see, and that's another thing with Brock. Some people were saying that Brock Lesnar was not about to lose in front of no fans because of, he's Brock Lesnar, but he did, and he made Drew McIntyre look freaking incredible. So awesome. But I want to see how all this pans out as it continues, especially when it comes to fans, because fans are missed and needed for these shows. And the second they can get out of the PC, they can start traveling again. Like they're going to be selling out shows. They were struggling with SmackDown, but they will be selling out shows.
Well, I was there when Nakamura won the number one contendership to face against Jinder Mahal. I was there for a few shows, and like nothing beats the live experience. There, yeah. Oh no! Oh my God.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was at that show.
I own a Jinder shirt, so it's ironic because my cousin and I love to make fun of him. So my cousin and I love to make fun of Jinder Mahal. I was gonna wear it today and just be like, Jinder.
I would have immediately closed my browser.
So like we love to meme Jinder Mahal, right? So we were like, oh, the modern day Maharaj is the greatest WWE champion of all time, and he's like sitting in the loge, like right above where we're sitting on the floor, because we got floor seats, and some guy was awesome. Filming. Some guy was it sucks because some guy in front of us is filming like the matches on what I could only imagine was like a toaster or something like that. I mean, the guy's like filming it on like the oldest camera he possibly could get. But that's besides the point. So we're leaving the show and we hop into the wrong elevator, and we're trying to figure out like the first show that we went to, we got AJ Styles shirts.
Nice.
And because he's my favorite wrestler of all time, because all I could do was watch TNA when I was younger.
Nice. Okay.
Just because it was on Spike whenever I could watch it. So, and then my second favorite wrestler is Jinder Mahal. I'm just kidding. So I'm in the process of watching, or we're in the process of going into the elevator, and we're about to.
I agree with that comment.
We're about to leave the elevator, and we're like, oh shit, we got it off of the wrong floor, basically. So we're like, oh shit, all right, well, there's a bunch of fans there, and we're like, what? Okay. We got off on the floor that Jinder Mahal's like loge was on.
Oh my God.
I mean, it wasn't anything special because he was still playing his character, but he walks right past us. And we're like, oh, Jinder. So we ended up buying Jinder Mahal shirts for that reason. So
oh my God, that's awesome.
I own a Jinder Mahal shirt. Unironically, I have I found the original, not the original. I found the who is it? The Statue of Liberty Zack Ryder shirt.
Oh my God, that's hard.
One of my favorite shirts of all time. I found that at like we have a store out here. I don't know if you have it, called Gabriel Brothers. That was where I found mine.
Oh my God.
I don't know how I found it, but I bought a bunch of old wrestling shirts from there before.
That's so cool.
Triple H shirt that I don't think I have anymore. A John Cena shirt that I wore to play John Cena for Halloween once. And anyways, to my point, Jinder Mahal, really missed him at this year's WrestleMania. All right, I'm out.
So,
my favorite wrestler of all time, he's injured right now. Unfortunately, we weren't hindered by Jinder.
But that just proves that fans are so crucial to these shows, and it sucks that they have to continue the way they are. But I'm glad we're getting wrestling anyway. Like I'm honestly super grateful, especially in these coming weeks. I know NXT, their third developmental brand is going to be, because they usually have pay-per-views as well.
See, I heard that most people prefer NXT to the normal WWE nowadays, though.
Because a lot of what NXT is, not only do they have the homegrown WWE made wrestlers, they also sign a lot of guys that are guys and gals that are popular on independent circuits. That's where we got to see a lot of guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, formerly El Generico, or Adam Cole, the entire Undisputed Era. Like, they all made their names somewhere else. They already had a fan base. They came to NXT, the developmental brand, and now WWE has finally embraced them as the third brand. And at this past Survivor Series, they participated because Survivor Series, the Battle of the Brands, Raw, SmackDown. Well, now there's NXT, and NXT won the most matches that night, solidifying themselves as the third brand. And people flock to these NXT shows. I've had the luxury of going to NXT Chicago both times. They were in Chicago, and both times were rowdy and incredible times. I got to see some incredible wrestlers, including my personal favorite of the Velveteen Dream, who is just Wrestling Prince. I'm super grateful for NXT, but they were supposed to have NXT Takeover, which is what all their shows are called. NXT Takeover Tampa. It's the Saturday before WrestleMania, and then they canceled that, made WrestleMania 2 nights, and now they're having the matches they're going to have on Takeover in the coming weeks of NXT. So we're going to see a number 1 contender ladder match for now NXT Women's Champion Charlotte, who will wrestle her going forward. And we're going to see the conclusion of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, which is the best storyline that WWE, that has been under the WWE banner of the last 5 years. So it's going to be nuts to see how these shows pan out in these coming weeks, especially since AEW has been freaking wrecking NXT in ratings, almost doubling their ratings sometimes. Because AEW is still fine and well. They're rocking. They had a bunch of tapings, but in regards to NXT, like, they're the better show. That, like, the wrestling fans, like the marks, like Nick and I, we're a little deeper than the casual wrestling fan. So that's the show that we probably would gravitate towards. Not to speak for you, Nick, but that's the show that I enjoy watching over Raw, at least over Raw and SmackDown.
Well,
and if
I mean, to that point, NXT has better writing. Sometimes you can debate better talent. The thing is that they utilize their superstars a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And some people would say it comes down to Triple H.
Well, yes,
because you don't have an old man running the show on Raw and SmackDown. You have a guy who's, for lack of a better word, woke, like Triple H. Like, he gets it. Like, Triple H genuinely gets it. All the people that he signs from these, like Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era, he went out to shows, saw these guys wrestle, and he's like, I want them, and he gets them. Like, and granted, that's just a WWE money bringing them in, but still, like, Triple H is running the show. Like, NXT is his baby.
Well, I was gonna say, like, he lets more slide there than, like, and he's so proud of his superstars. Like, whenever they do something on the main roster, he'll take a picture with them. And what's hilarious is that when Triple H won the WWE Championship recently, somebody photoshopped a picture of him in his suit pointing at Triple H, who's holding his WWE.
Yeah.
Oh, can't believe they gave the title to this young upstart Paul Levesque, because that's his name in real life. But the thing is like, NXT as a brand, Finn Balor is a huge wrestler, and he was a huge wrestler on the WWE on Raw. He now back in NXT as a full-time wrestler there. And that's to show how, and they're using him so much better in NXT.
It's not developmental.
I'm sure.
Like, not by any means a demotion. It used to be considered that if you came from NXT to the main roster, WWE or SmackDown, you got a promotion. That's not a case anymore. Now you're just moving shows. Because NXT, for a lot of fans and for a lot of like wrestling journalists, it's arguably the A show because it's the best show that WWE can put on in a week.
It's because everybody's kind of coming from that independent scene. I think that the only wrestler, a lot of them are veterans already. Which not to say that the wrestlers who are already like there in the WWE aren't veterans on their own, but it's a matter of a lot of the people like Kevin Owens came in with years of experience, Adam Cole, all those like bigger names that they were able to sign, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor even. They all came with a level of experience already, which added to their characters. I think that really I'm sure that there are other superstars that I don't know about. Velveteen Dream is the only one that I know of that wasn't really a wrestler full-time before he was on Tough Enough. And then they signed him to a full-time deal. But what's nice about the Velveteen Dream that might not be portrayed on the main roster is he created his character. More or less, it is a Prince knockoff. And he does have like some Rick Rude stuff.
Died. Like Prince died, and then like a couple months later, we got the Velveteen Dream. Well,
yeah. But like, he plays the character so well, and it's a matter of they gave him that creative freedom. Like that's something that people were debating as to whether or not they should have done it or not. But when Matt Hardy was recently doing his run with the WWE, they couldn't get the name Broken Matt Hardy because it was under copyright with another company, so they made him Woken Matt Hardy.
Matt owned the copyright.
Well, now he does. Yeah,
there was owns the copyright.
Wrestling owned the copyright for a little while, and then eventually, the rights went back to him. So they needed to make him Woken Matt Hardy. But the thing was people were saying, well, here's how you fix Matt Hardy. There's nothing wrong with him. You move him down to NXT, and Broken Matt Hardy comes back, and you develop this character back up. And that's why they call it developmental. Is there's so much more freedom when it comes to NXT as to how to develop these characters. And that's just the big deal when it comes to it.
Well, I know that there's one title that I know we really got to dig into. It was a debut also. 24/7 title winner Rob Gronkowski.
Yay.
So that's going to be it for Final Buzzer.
Well, I was actually texting a wrestling friend, and I was thinking, like, Chris and I, we gotta make this a wrestling show. Who I was thinking of that only because, like, this guy and I would have loved to. He's a guy I used to work with. We talk wrestling all the time, and we would have such a funny podcast together about it. But I'm like, don't worry. In a year, Rob Gronkowski is going to be the WWE champion. And I hate that that's the fact, but unfortunately, because guess what? Here's the big deal,
Chris. I don't know wrestling, and I even know that's going to happen. Look at the Ronda Rousey situation.
Does not care about your talent. He cares about making money, and that's a big deal. That's why we got Brock Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez as a fight because two UFC
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, I get it, but still.
And that's a whole different can of worms I'm not going to open.
Back for main show, though. You're telling me that Cain Velasquez isn't going to come back eventually? Okay, sorry. Here's a better example. Ronda Rousey. That's why we had Ronda Rousey.
Okay, let me tell you the difference between Ronda Rousey and Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski.
Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, but go on.
Okay, so people can have backgrounds in other sports. That's a fact. Like that's something that, and WWE and WrestleMania specifically are no strangers to having athletes, especially football players, come in and participate in WrestleMania. Example: Lawrence Taylor, the OGLT was a part. He had a match at WrestleMania, not too like in the 80s or 90s. The Fridge, William Perry, he also participated in WrestleMania. Like we really need to cool it first of all in regards to Rob Gronkowski. Yes, and I'm sorry, WWE Hall of Famer, the Fridge, William Perry. So
that's right, yeah.
I honestly think that this Rob Gronkowski thing, he will wrestle. He 1,000%.
He will be the champion in a year.
But the difference between him and Ronda is that Ronda came strictly to participate. She wrestled more so than Rob will in the next calendar year. Quote me. Like, I will.
I don't agree.
Hold on. Here's the thing. He has gone on record. He's been a part of wrestling before. He if I remember correctly, he guested in something WWE.
He likes wrestling, and that's great. He's a draw, and I understand that. Putting him as your main title holder is stupid and idiotic, and that's where people turn off or they change the channel from USA to TNT. That's where you lose them. Like, hey, him being 24/7 champion at the moment is fine. That's what the belt was made for.
Vince is going to try to do whatever he can to make money, and if giving Rob Gronkowski a title will make him money, it's going to get people talking. He might hold it for like a week.
That's great. But who the hell's going to go to those shows? They have no people at the shows right now, let alone.
You want to know why?
If Rob Gronkowski's my WWE champion. All right, shit. Guess I'm going to go watch AEW then, because they know what the hell they're doing.
I was about to say, you want to know why there's nobody at the shows? Because AEW is kicking ass.
Yeah, AEW has been giving and this is a good and bad thing about AEW is that that wrestling show is made for wrestling fans, because the guys that are wrestling on it are the ones producing the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kicker. That's the difference.
I'm not even a wrestling guy, and I know this shit.
Like, that's the main difference in the two brands, or the two different
companies.
The two companies is that AEW makes their wrestling shows for wrestling fans. You see the most kick-ass wrestling on AEW Dynamite every week, whether they're fans there or not.
And
WWE is all about like what's going to draw people in, because their numbers have been dwindling for by Nick. They had the numbers dwindling for years now, and AEW they popped up on the scene, and now they're the hottest thing in professional wrestling, and they allowed creative freedom. Now, just to finish the thing about Rob Gronkowski,
there he is.
He will wrestle. Rob Gronkowski will wrestle at SummerSlam. That's my guess, because it's going to be this big marquee match. Who he wrestles, I don't know. He might wrestle Mojo Rawley, who's his real life friend. So that might actually be a thing. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the extent of that. We will not see a Ronda Rousey-esque run, and Shayna Baszler's a different case, and you know that, Nick.
I know. No, that's my point. Is because it was a UFC person who went through the developmental system. And also, I'm sorry, I went to go get wrestling results on Facebook, and this is why Facebook's evil. For some reason, my link on the stream became Facebook because I accidentally dragged it over. So maybe it's my fault.
So, yeah.
Long story short, I suck.
Long story short, Rob Gronkowski, he will be around for a while, hosting various things, being a personality for WWE, but he'll get in the ring once or twice, and it'll be fun to see him not be good, but it'll be entertaining enough, and it's going to be exactly what they want, but he'll be nowhere near Brock Lesnar, I'll tell you that, or Drew McIntyre, because God, if the day Rob Gronkowski pins Drew McIntyre, I will probably jump out of this window.
Right.
Window. I want video of that. I want video.
You're right, though. You remember when we said, the second that Goldberg beats the Fiend, I'm jumping out that window. Well, my actual carcass is on the outside of that.
No, that's the sad part.
Now,
I kind of bracing for impact of that. Because why else put Goldberg in a situation?
Like the ground outside your window, or
like my corpse. Well, I was on campus at the time, so my corpse is still on campus. No, because they ran that show at noon. Because in Saudi Arabia it was like 7 o'clock or whatever. But it was Goldberg is a wrestler though. That's the thing. Goldberg's a wrestler. Ugh. I use that word loosely. Ugh. Rob Gronkowski is not.
He has one of my favorite quotes of all time. Yeah, I hear that. When people were chanting for CM Punk, I quote that a lot. And primarily to people who understand wrestling, but still.
I don't like the idea of people who aren't wrestlers coming into a WWE or AEW or whoever the hell and winning and being good, and actually being pushed to the moon. There are exceptions. I was at Stephen Amell's first wrestling show. Stephen Amell, for those who don't know, he was the Green Arrow.
You'd go to a ton of wrestling shows.
It was AEW before AEW was AEW.
Yeah, the Cody Rhodes, when he had the feud with Cody Rhodes, was it correct?
He wrestled Christopher Daniels.
Okay.
No. Well, okay, let me rephrase then. It was his first singles match.
Okay.
He wrestled Christopher Daniels. And Christopher Daniels is a legend. He's a vet. He's been wrestling for 50 years. At least that's what it feels like. And he's great. And he had a great match. And that was where Stephen Amell got to really carry the match, unlike the Stardust Neville one that you're talking about, Matt, which that was a flaming pile of garbage, and he almost killed himself in the process. But like, no, it was different, and that was fine because he did his one and left. He lost too. Like, that was the thing. He took the pin because he had no business. Is that the Goldberg thing?
Yeah, sorry. It's my favorite thing. He's like, oh, I hear that, because he has no clue what the hell they're talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Because he had no business being in a wrestling. He shocked everybody, being at least well-trained. He did his one and he bounced. Cool. That's the perfect way to use a celebrity. The perfect way. Because in what earth, in what timeline, does Stephen Amell beat Christopher Daniels?
I'm sure that there is a Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline for that.
No. Yeah, Chris and I still got to do a review on that. That's
Earth
not
57 where Stephen Amell beat Christopher Daniels. Like, what a sad day for SoCal Uncensored. Like, I am bummed just thinking about it. As much as I love Stephen Amell, and trust me, I wore my Vigilante Club shirt when he was in the Bullet Club at the time. I'm a mark. I get it, but man, like, I can't rock with the idea of these celebrities actually getting physical. Because there was a point where they didn't. There was like a 20-year stint where they didn't, and that's perfect. But no, we want to have the draw. We want to make the money because we're a business. That's good shit. But no, like, I can't.
Good shit. Yeah,
good shit. Like, I can't stand the idea of Rob Gronkowski actually getting more physical than he already has been, and he'll be around. I've already swallowed that pill, but hopefully it ends sooner rather than later.
Fair enough.
With Rob Gronkowski winning the WWE championship.
Now let me get off of my soapbox. That really pissed me off for some reason.
Chris and I have the largest soapboxes I've ever seen when it comes to wrestling. You want to get
pissed off even more? Just think more about Crisis.
Crisis didn't piss me off as much as you think it did, but it still upset me.
Oh no, it upset me more than it pissed me off. But
this is that's a whole different thing.
I want Nick to watch Crisis. I want Nick to watch Crisis and then him give
blind with no context.
Well, yeah, because he's never really watched any of the DC shows.
Oh my god, then you have to watch Crisis with no context.
Yes, because I want him to be the guy with no context, get his point of view on it, and
an unbiased point of view,
and then you and I, who have all the context in the world, just go off.
If it's my Last Jedi reaction, or if it's my Rise of Skywalker reaction, it will be, that fucking sucked.
And that's, again, it's a whole different can of worms. But in conclusion, WrestleMania, I hope it continues being 2 nights. I don't know how that works logistically, because I don't think they can sell out a football stadium 2 nights in a row. At least that's my opinion.
They're probably better off sticking with a NBA stadium or
go back to arenas.
Yeah,
like, it's been a long time since they've had a WrestleMania at an arena. Let's go back
to WrestleMania. They're not going to do that
for 2 nights, though. If it's worth doing,
go back to 2 nights. They could.
You will sell out both nights in a heartbeat.
But they probably will make more money if they do it the other way, though.
And if that's what they're focused on, then cool. But if they want to not only make money but appease the fans, then 2 nights is how it works. Because a 10-hour show, like, the pre-show starts at 2 in the afternoon, show doesn't end until midnight. The fans are exhausted by 9 o'clock, and then we have 3 more hours of wrestling. Like, those shows are a drag, and I've been watching them, and I'm tired. I get tired of watching these things. I can't imagine being there, reacting to all the cool or worse stuff that they do on the show. Like, people probably fall asleep, take naps. They have nap breaks, nap matches.
They know where to, yeah. I was gonna say.
I mean, Chris, in my defense, though, I'm spending 6 hours watching the Schmodown Spectacular at the end of the year. So,
but that's different. Like, that is totally a different thing. But with 10 hours outside, if they keep it in stadiums,
that's your point is now.
Like, and it's a mess. And granted, they make money and they're successful and they work for them. But if they stick to 2 nights, go back to arenas. But
they might.
Odds are they
I
won't
don't-
do that, but I really hope so. I'm hoping for the best. But WrestleMania
Yeah.
this year kicked a lot of ass. Nick, I really think you should watch the show, or at least watch the matches you haven't seen.
I might.
It's a great show overall. I shouldn't say great. It's a really good show overall. And
I have the network, so I can.
I loved it. Like, I honestly did love it. McIntyre, Lesnar being a highlight, the Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard matches being a highlight. Those are the other big one. Seeing my man Austin Theory, being NXT for 3 months,
Surprised, yeah.
and then now he's on the WrestleMania card, wrestling with his idol, wrestling on the same card as his idol, John Cena. That's incredible. What a great story. What else was good? The ladder match, the triple threat tag team ladder match that had one guy from each team participate. That was a great match as well. I know I'm blanking on some and I'm missing some, but the show overall was a hoot. I really enjoyed it. It was a great watch, and I'm so glad they split it up because I would not be able to watch that straight. So good job, WWE. You actually made me happy for once, at least for the first time this year.
I mean, we're only
and
four, one and a.
it could go to
quarter.
shit tonight. So
And it will.
yeah, and it was a lot of great wrestling. I can only think of the duds right now, which is probably my WWE side of my brain, telling me to focus on the bad stuff. But there was a lot of good things out of this WrestleMania, and I know there's some I didn't mention. But this card was set up to be great. It met expectation to me. I wish there were fans there. I wish it was at James Raymond because they would have had great reactions from these crowds. But with what they did under these certain circumstances, it rocked. And I'm so glad that they actually went through with it. Didn't cancel it because even though that was on the table at one point, canceling this whole event. I still wish they postponed it, but as is, I loved it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, guys, we actually didn't end up being short. We went over. You guys loved that wrestling talk, but
Show.
thank you guys for coming on. Thank everyone who tuned in. Signing off. I'm Matt. He's Chris, and down below is Nick. And this
John Cena.
you can't see him. And this is another Who Are They final buzzer.